field, I seen two kind of like shadows coming real quick to me, and they like hover over, but staying up. And they were just like real quick, not audible, but a telepathic. Are you still praying for Pappy? Pappy is my ex-father-in-law. And no, because I was remarried then. I hadn't seen him in a while. And they said, oh, okay. And they took off. And I'm like, wait, do I need to pray for him? What was that? Why would they come ask me? Or who are they? Or what's this about? And that night, my son called me and said, Mom, Grandpa died. He had a heart attack, and he was in the squad, and he was dead before they got to the hospital. By the time they got to the hospital. So I thought, well, that confirms that what I saw was real.
Right.
Because I have to have confirmation. I'm not one of these people that, says things and, okay, that doesn't make any sense, or a lot of it doesn't make sense, but, I have to have some kind of verification to believe this. And then other things would happen, like my ex-mother-in-law. I had some feelings before she died, and went to the hospital and consoled the family. And then my exes, they're cleaning Mom up now, and all the kids are going to see her, but when they're done, you can go in. So I went in. As soon as I put my hand on her arm, kind of like to say hi, after she passed, it was like I just picked up the phone, we started a conversation.
Yeah.
And she wanted me to bring her back. I can't bring you back. But she wanted me to. She was insistent. And I said, you broke a hip, you had a massive heart attack, you had a beautiful death. All 12 of her kids was around her. They were saying prayers and singing. And I said, there's nothing here for you but pain. The next step.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
We're off and running. Hello, and welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with Karen Swain. So great to see you again. A bit weary today, you have to excuse me, it's been a big weekend. Look at this gorgeous woman I've got to introduce you to. I don't know if you've seen her before. If you're an NDE person who likes to watch NDEs, you've surely seen Pegi's story before on YouTube. Pegi Robinson, hello, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
I tell you, Pegi has been on a journey in this life. Oh my God. I've not read your book because I haven't had time because I've been so busy, but I have watched a few of your interviews, and whew, have you been on a journey? I've only got a short bio to read today, so I'm just going to get into it, and then we're going to get into your journey. Pegi Robinson drowned at the age of 5, then went to die on from an ectopic pregnancy at the age of 25. It was the biggest tubal pregnancy that the hospital had ever seen. And I saw you say on another show that they said, you're famous around here. And you said, I don't want to be famous for dying. But you know what? You're kind of getting famous for dying, Pegi. And with out being in hospital that night, Pegi would have most likely died for good, left the body and not come back. Both times she experienced seeing a panel of people, and she returned from her experiences with some newfound abilities, including knowing when people are dying or needing assistance to stay alive. That's really interesting. We'll talk about that. Today, Pegi is the group leader of Mid-Ohio Valley IANDS and is also the author of her memoir, The Will of a Wildflower. I think it looks like a beautiful book. I love the name of the book. As I said, I haven't had time to read it, but this is something that just blows me away about you, Pegi. You've adopted 10 children and have had 60 foster children, as you promised God when you returned at 18 that you would do something to help children. That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Shall we get into your story? And I said to her at the beginning of this, said to Pegi that I'm going to inject my point of view with some of the things that she says during her story, because as you recall your story, you recall these extraordinary, transcendent, out-of-body experiences, but you recall it from the point of our linear ego mind. And some of the things you say from our broader perspective is what we would think, when we live this linear life, but it's not actually how it works. So I just want to inject a little thing about, like what was happening. And so people that are listening to this can kind of understand, maybe they can understand their life better by hearing your story.
Okay.
So you were 5, and what happened?
I was 5 years old, and I was in my room playing Barbie dolls, and my mom said that we could go swimming. Me and my brother could go on down, and her and my older sister would be down after a bit. And my brother was about 2 years older than me, and I was the youngest of 5, but the oldest 2 weren't home that day, and my dad wasn't home. So my brother and I ran down to the pond. He dove in at the farthest end and started doing his laps. He's a real good swimmer. I could only dog paddle. So I went to the side middle of the pond and eased my way in and was feeling around for drop-offs, make sure I didn't go in too deep. And I saw a board, and I thought I could use that as a raft. And so I laid my belly on it, and I went out to the center of the pond because that's what my big brother was doing. And I said, "Hey, John, look at me," like, little kids would. And he swam out to me real fast. And as he did almost come to me, I thought, oh no, I made a bad mistake, because he always takes my toys from me. And he did. He took that board and he took off doing his laps on it, and I sunk and I drowned. And the drowning process was trying to keep my head up, but above water, but that didn't last long at all. And I was under, and the water was brown and muddy, and I couldn't see which direction I was going. I was trying to get back up, but I was afraid I was going down too deep or sideways. And it was scary because there was nobody there to help me, nobody to see that I needed help. It was a lonely feeling, very alone. And I thought of my mom and my sister up at the house getting ready to come down, and they always looked at them as my protectors. And as I thought about them, I have a memory of being at the ceiling in the kitchen, watching them get ready to come down. They were getting stuff out of the cabinet, and I felt their emotions. And then I was back in my body struggling, and which, seemed to me like a memory. But as I got older, I thought, wait a minute, I couldn't have been there seeing that. It had to have been a leave a body, come back. And then I was back in my body, and it hurt more than ever. And it felt like my throat would burst, and I couldn't take it anymore. And then it was like I had woke up, like there had been some time and I was asleep, and now I was waking up, rested and calm. And my thought was, why did our parents lie to us? I didn't drown. These thoughts, are so clear. And, here I am, 58 years old. And so, this happened at 5 years old, 1966. And this is what's so amazing about the NDEs, is that I believe that these memories are stored in our soul, and our soul is flawless, and it doesn't require a mind. It doesn't require anything physical. It is in the spiritual, and it's so perfect on that side. And that's what I experienced, was the other side of this life. I experienced the muddy brown water as now a beautiful, bright, shiny green. And I could see, so it wasn't so scary, and I wasn't having trouble breathing. And I thought, my parents lied to us, because there's no such thing as drowning, because I'm fine. And I felt myself drifting down low, and I wasn't scared, where before that's where I was terrified, was going down further deeper. And so once I got down there, some things happened, like a vision opened and helped me understand that I'm dead. I'm not alive. And with that thought, I thought, well, I don't want to be dead down the bottom of this pond. So I rose up above the water, and I realized I wasn't no longer in my body. I realized I had changed, that my vision was different, because I got to the top of the water and I could see 2 views of the water under and below at the same time, which here we can't. We see, like your picture and your wall behind you, there's the green and then there's the white of the frame. And I could see below the water's the green and the white, a beautiful, bright summer day. I could see 2 views, like I'm looking out of it, not like I'm in it. And so I thought, well, I'm bored below, I'm going to go above. And I realized by wanting to do things, I could do them. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, I could go up a little higher, but I'm a little afraid of heights, because I'm getting used to this. This is all new to me. And so I thought, well, I'll go as far as the treetops, and I'll wait right there. And I knew I couldn't see my body below, but I knew that it was directly below me, and I didn't want to leave. I was just going to take it slow. And I looked around and seen the view of up the hill, the road, and cross the Route 7 over the Ohio River, and see the road, highway, Route 7 going both ways. And I thought, well, if I can hover, I guess I can fly. Anything I knew about ghosts was Casper the Friendly Ghost from cartoons. And so I had no clue how would a 5-year-old understand, okay, this is death, this is what we do in death? I mean, you don't. You just are there. I suppose like being born, you're just here, figure it out. And so I thought, well, and I was okay with everything. I thought, well, okay, and so I thought, well, I'll go exploring. And then I heard a voice, a female adult voice in front of me. It's like a young adult woman. And she said, don't go yet. If they find you soon, you might go back. And her saying that is so imprinted in me, and that it's just so matter of fact. And I thought to myself, go back? What is she talking about? That's not how death works. I thought I knew at least that much about death. If that's not how it works, you don't go back. I thought, what is she talking about, go back? And I thought, nobody's even looking for me yet. And at some point I looked down and I saw my mom and sister had now came to the pond, and they're sitting on a bed sheet. And I don't hear their conversation, but I feel it. I can tell it's intimate and female, close, mature. And I felt kind of jealous because I wanted to be old enough to talk to mom like that. And now I never would be. I would never be old enough. And then I looked on the other side of the pond and I saw my brother on my board, and I knew that I had drowned because he took my board. And I would have these strong emotions about these feelings. They would grow in and then go away, kind of like a wave. And then I was fine again. And so at some point, hovering above that pond, I got information that my family didn't love me. And then that was like something, just information brought into me. But then I heard a voice inside of me, not out like the female voice, but inside, saying, children are sent here to be loved. That is why God sends them here. And I responded with, well, that's not fair. You just told me I'm not loved by my family, and now you tell me that's why God sends them here. Well, that's not fair. And I felt this injustice. And I think I have carried that feeling of injustice my whole life without realizing maybe that's where it come from.
Absolutely. This is where I'm going to say a few things in here. A couple of things. So, see, from our linear perspective, we don't understand that we're multidimensional. And if we're multidimensional, we're not one person, we're many aspects of a grand. And so you say, I couldn't have been in my body because I was viewing my mom in the kitchen, having a conversation with my sister. And so I must have been out of my body, but you could have been in your body, drowning, and viewing your mother at the same time. Yeah. And then you experience that multiple view. Like, we can actually do that. We don't have to die to do that. We can sit here and I can have a conversation with you and project my consciousness and be somewhere else and be seeing that as well. We can do that. Anyway, so it's interesting that you had this experience. And another thing that came to mind as I was listening to you was you weren't dying to die. You were having an experience that would help you in the rest of your life. And then there was this beautiful female angelic presence, invisible, but watching you have this experience and listening to your thoughts. And then interjecting when she thought that you were going to do something that wasn't supposed to be, like, I'm not going to come back. And then she gave you some guidance. Well, maybe you should hang around because you might be going back. So it was beautiful to know that, because when you relay the story, it's like you're alone, but you're never alone. Like, we're never alone, even though we can't, even when you're outside your body, you couldn't see her, but did you see her when that voice happened? Did you see her, or you just felt?
No,
right.
No, I just heard her. And, right. But when I came back, when I woke up, my brother was carrying me over his shoulder.
Right.
And I was looking down at the pavement, and, and then he set me down. My mom, my sister went up to the house, And as a 5-year-old, now I have this wisdom and knowledge I didn't have before. I seen an alternative to this life, and I had the knowledge my family didn't love me, and I could tell that was confirmed because they just left me there. They just said, oh, I'm so glad you're okay. You're nothing like it. They just went up and left me. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go back to that pond. I know it's scary. I know it's going to hurt, but I'm not going to fight it this time because I was about to go flying. I want to continue where I was and what I was doing.
Yeah.
I mean, why would I go to this family now? They don't love me. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
And just as I took a step forward to do that, I now saw her. It was like the woman, the voice that spoke to me. Yeah. I saw a young, thin female, white, light shape of a person hovering over the road. And she says, no, don't. And I said, why not? You know, they don't love me. She said, you'll have a lot of love someday. When you have your own family, you'll have a lot of love then. And I said, where will I find it? And she pointed right towards Belpre, and I went up the hill. And some strange things happened for a while. I was just a different kid for a while. And I put all of that behind me because, you know, where are you going to store that in your brain?
Yeah.
As a child, as useful information.
You know, it's so confusing to a 5-year-old, but at least you had some help, because I know many 5-year-olds and children that are abused that don't have this sort of angelic or these experience, have this help, and they have to try and figure it out for themselves. So you were lucky, Peggy, that you had this help. Because I came from a similar background. Like, it sounds like your experience, like your family were poor. I don't know, when your angel or guide said to you, they don't love you, I think she probably said to you, they don't know how to love you. Because we all come from the same source. We all come from love. And then we come into these bodies and these circumstances, and we get taught out of it. And I'm sure that their background was just as horrific as your background. And at some point, there's just this chain of pain that keeps happening through families, and someone has to stop it. So it sounds like you were the one that was going to stop it in your lineage. Yeah, and
maybe they didn't know how, but you know, the fact was true, they didn't, and to this day they never have. You know, it's more evident all the time how much they not only don't love me, they just really, really don't like me. And it was just since I was born, you know, I was the youngest, and Mom spoiled me, and it made my middle sister Terry mad, and she convinced the boys that I was bad. And so it just went from there. And then my mom and dad got divorced when I was 10. And then my mom married an alcoholic, abusive man, my stepfather. And so he started abusing the older kids down to youngest. Since I was youngest, I had the longest. And so it just was kind of got to be, this is the way my life is going to be. It's just love is for everybody else but me. So, and sometimes I think, you know, why? Well, sure. Yeah. Why? And, you know, the only thing I can think of is, well, maybe God picked me to know what it was like to do something about it, to stand up for children. And, you know, to this day, I'm still arguing with people and trying to make them understand that children should be our top priority. They should not be abused. They should not be aborted. They should not be killed. They should not be sold for sex. They should not be cut up for parts and sold for organs or whatever. Children should be our greatest joy, and they should have our greatest protection. And we would raise such wonderful citizens if we would learn to love children more.
I'm hearing you, girl. I'm hearing you. It seems unbelievable that children are abused and abandoned. But you know, Peggy, you had very different, like you've raised in America, I'm raised in Australia, very different background. And yet the same. I came from privilege. I came from money. My father was very wealthy. He came from privilege. His father was a self-made man, and he made lots of money. Mum came from the wrong side of the tracks, according to my family. You know, she was born into poverty, but she was very beautiful. And, you know, beauty attracts money in the mainstream playground, doesn't it? And that's that classic story, Cinderella story. But we were just as abused as that. You know, we came from that same dysfunction, different socioeconomic background. Like, you don't have to be poor to be abused. And so this chain of pain happens in all areas of life, in moneyed families, in poor families, in middle-class families. It's just people don't know, they believe they're stressful thoughts. They don't know who they are. So, yeah. So you and I are here to remind them, right?
Yeah.
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 So what
look
happened?
At the state of children now, they're so angry and lost and no morals and, think that they're supposed to be a sex object or, I don't know, and the drugs, and they're confused, they're lost. And my thing is, we got to get back to loving children to raise healthy adults.
So after you had your drowning at 5, you said that you were quite different. So you've drowned, you've been in the presence of love, you've been told that your family don't love you. I mean, that's kind of confusing to the 5-year-old. How were you different? Were you more aloof? How were you different as a child after that experience?
Well, in a lot of ways, I was still the same. I wasn't very smart. I was shy. I was the youngest tag along. So without my siblings, I didn't know what to do in any environment. But I realized at certain moments when some ethical things would come up that I was the only one to stand up and say, that's not right. My dad shouldn't be molesting my sister. My oldest brother shouldn't be molesting my oldest sister was mentally disabled. We shouldn't be lined up at Christmas and be whipped before we go to grandma's. And of course, the other kids felt that way too. And then when my parents got divorced, some things would happen and nobody else seemed to care about. And I would be the one to say, that's not right. And I had to call the police one day because my mom was out in the front yard beating up my new stepfather's ex-wife. And I'm the one that ran in the house and called the cops. And my older sister was standing up.
Who was beating up who? So your new stepfather.
Well, my mom was beating her boyfriend's wife in the front yard. And I ran in and called the police. And my older sister, my middle sister Terry, just standing there laughing. And one night I walked in the house after dark. I was like 11. And my sister Terry and my brother John, my brother Steve were in the kitchen. The rest of the house was dark, but the light was on the kitchen. So I went back to see. The house was quiet, but somebody's back there. And here they were getting ready to put rat poison in my stepfather's coffee pot.
Oh my God. I shouldn't be laughing, but it's like a comedy of errors, isn't it? It's unbelievable, Peggy, what you've been through.
Yeah. And I'm the one that said no.
And you said no. Can I tell you a funny story about my family? Reminds me, because my mum was just so, like, when Dad leaves her for a younger woman, she's so jealous and so in hatred. So she's been a showgirl, right? And so she kind of knows the underworld of Sydney. So she asked this friend of hers who was a thug to go beat up Dad because, like, she's upset that he's left her. And this man comes to the door, knocks on his door. She gives him the address and opens the door, doesn't realize that they know each other because Dad came from money, right? So how would he know somebody like that? But they've crossed paths somewhere along the line. They've had a beer in the pub or whatever. And he goes, oh, hi, mate, what are you doing here? And he's gone, oh, damn, your ex-wife sent me over to beat you up. And he goes, oh, you better come in for a drink then. I thought that was so funny. But there was a lot of violence in my family too. Oh, what do you do with it? So, okay, so the near-death experience instilled that sense of justice in you. So as you saw all this chain of pain unfold in your life, you knew it wasn't right. So your other siblings just thought, well, this is life. Welcome to planet Earth. This is what happens here. But you're going, no, this isn't right. This isn't supposed to be like this.
Yeah. Yeah, in 5th or 6th grade, I was in health class, and I always stared out the window, didn't pay attention. I skipped school a lot. I was always way behind. I was never going to catch up. But one day, our health teacher, Mr. Cooper, started talking about failure to thrive, explaining what that is.
Failure to thrive.
Babies in orphanages and elderly in nursing homes can will themselves to die. They can be perfectly healthy, but if they don't have love, they can will themselves to die. Wow. And I was about to explode. I went from staring out the window. I wanted to I wanted to stand on top of my desk and scream, we got to do something right now. This is insane. How can we live in a world that cannot love everybody, that, that they're dying because they don't have love? And, I didn't know where all that come from. I guess it come from my feelings of drowning about not being loved. And I was going through a time too, after my parents' divorce, during the 5th, 6th grade, of being alone a lot and just kind of walking the streets hungry, and nobody's ever home. My mom would go with my stepdad. He drove semi. And they would be gone for long periods of time. She would give, I didn't know it until I got older, that she would give food stamps to my older sister, Terry, to take care of me. But Terry's off with her friends, spending the food stamps on, her friends. And so his mom didn't know that I was, alone, not being taken care of. But anyway, so that affected me so much, that this failure to thrive thing. And ironically, when I started working at Children's Services Investigator, my first major case, the first month I was there, happened to be a failure to thrive case with a baby, a newborn baby.
Right.
And it's just strange how life works out. It's just, when you look back, when you get older, it's like, this was just all meant to be.
All meant to be. Yeah, not strange at all set up. Yeah, like all scripted. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So after that experience in that health class, we moved somewhere else in my junior high years, and I couldn't do enough. I started as a candy striper at a nursing home, and I started babysitting 50 hours a week, 50 cents an hour for a little kid. I started making crafts for charities, and I was just like, I couldn't do enough. I was selling poppies for veterans and waitressing for veterans, and I was just this little social worker. And then we'd move, and then I have to say, okay, what am I going to do now? But yeah, it's just strange how, and I look back and I didn't figure this all out when I was younger. I was busy with all those kids and college and work. And I look back and I can just kind of see, well, I think this caused this and this and that. And it seems like all the ways of the other side of the drowning come back with me. The strong sense of injustice, wanting to care about unloved children because I was showed I was unloved. And I wanted orphans. Right after the drowning, I decided I wanted orphans. I wanted to care about unloved children. And when I turned 18, like you said, I promised God, I'm not going to forget what it was like. I'm going to do something to help kids, because kids will always go through this. And I don't want to be a type person that, not worried about what's happening in that next house, or, because you can tell sometimes if you pay attention what kids need help. And some people just don't have a clue.
Yeah. Oh, it makes me cry when I think of that, when you made that, you cry, at 18, crying out to God, I'm going to do something about this. Okay, so you died a second time when you had the ectopic pregnancy. You had 3 little boys. You had 2 of your own and 1 you adopted, which was your sister's son, right? And then you were pregnant with twins. You went to hospital, but you knew that one was an ectopic. How old were you at the time this was happening?
I was 25, and I didn't know one was ectopic. I just knew it had to be a ectopic pregnancy, because I'd had my tubes tied at 20, reversed at 25, and they said I would get an extra 5% chance than normal of a dual pregnancy. And when I started having pain, I just thought that has to be what it is. But my doctor kept assuring me when I called and telling him, he says, it's not a dual pregnancy. I did ultrasound, both babies are in the uterus. I thought, okay, but what was it? And so on the way to the hospital, the pain was so bad, but then it faded. And I remember so clearly feeling, wherever my pain just went, that's where I'm going. I knew I was dying at that moment, but I couldn't say that out loud. So I thought, well, just get me to the hospital. I'm thinking this, and I'll die there, because I don't want to die in a car and do that to my husband. And so we got to the hospital, put me in a chair, and I said, I think it's a dual pregnancy, but I feel like I'm going to vomit or pass out. And they put me in this wheelchair, and just start to wheel me down the hall. My husband's staying to sign the papers. And this is a long haul, but as soon as we start in it, I went to get that bowl because I thought I was going to throw up. And I lost contact with my body. I could not tell my hands to pick up that bowl. I couldn't move a finger. And I thought, I've lost contact with my body. Oh, wait, I'm not going to throw up after all. I'm going to pass out right now. And my head come down, hit my chest. And that's when suddenly I am shot like a rocket up through space. And I end up stopped still in a bright white light all alone. And it was all around me was white, and but through the middle, it's like I was contained in light. And there, I couldn't see me, but I felt exactly still like me. And I thought, well, this must be heaven. What else would it be? And there's nothing like this on earth. And I was just taken way up in space. And we think of heaven as up, And I thought, why am I alone? And I'm going to be alone for eternity. Did I do something wrong I'm not aware of? And then I saw up ahead a outline of a person and this bright white light. And I saw, I could see it was the outline. And I seen another one, like they're standing in line shoulder to shoulder. That's why I say like a panel of people. And then my eyes kept scanning. I seen one sitting up front and center. I thought that has to be God. And I started screaming, demanding, I got to go back. I have kids to raise. I am not staying here. You can't make me, strong-willed. Because no way was I going to leave my kids down there without a mother's love and protection, because I grew up without that. And I couldn't just stay up there and not worry, because I was an overprotective mother. I didn't let anybody babysit my kids. I didn't trust anybody. My biological family wasn't allowed around them. I mean, my kids was going to be protected from everything. Nothing bad was going to happen to them. And then now I'm removed from them way up there. So I seen a scenario open up of this spoiled child, and I believe that's God's way of showing me that's how you're acting. And the answer is no. So I thought, okay, you're omniscient. If you look in the future and if you see that my kids would be better off without me for whatever reason, I agree to stay. If not, I beg to return. And then I seen right in front of me, like a physical me, like I still have this invisible point of reference. As I look at the panel, as I see this scenario open up, this spoiled boy, and then now straight in front of me, I see like a physical me, and I am screaming out to God every abuse I ever endured, but it come out real fast, like somebody just cranked up a record player, and then it was out and over. And it was like my way of God, or of God helping me understand, you don't have to keep going on. I know, I understand. It's out. Oh, okay. So you understand, you get it, right? So you understand as a young mother what I'm feeling. And so then we went into the future to see, because I asked, to see in the future if my boys are better off. And I think it's Jesus. I see a man from behind. I'm still this invisible point of reference. But now we're down. I'm still in this white light space, but we are down on earth above my trailer. And it's at night, and it's like there's no roof because we can see straight down in. And then we drop down, get a better look. And my 3 boys are in there in their bedroom, and it can't be that far in the future because they look the same age. And they're discussing that mom has died. And my middle son, Jeremy, told his other brother, he says, I don't care that you say mom is dead. I want her back, and I want her back right now. And I felt his pain, and it hurt so bad that I retracted. And now I am back in heaven. But I am no longer this invisible point of reference, or I am in a physical body because I see my hands in front of my face, and I'm crumbled at the feet of Jesus. And I realize God's not judging me, but I'm judging me. That it's my fault because I had my tubes tied. I caused my death and caused the twins' death because, something to kill me, they've got to be dead. They can't be down there without me. And that I've caused my children to be motherless and cause them to feel this pain. And whatever happens to them growing up is going to be my fault because I made these bad decisions. And I had all this remorse, and then it was like washed away from me. And then I was left with like a higher thought. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm not going back. I am going to stay in heaven. And, whatever happens to my kids, happens to my kids. But, they'll be here someday with me. When they get old and die, they'll be with me. And then I had another thought. What if they're so angry because their mother died and they are mistreated or something? They grow up to be angry young men. And what if they don't come back to heaven? And I thought, well, who's going to teach them about Jesus, take them to Sunday school, and things if I'm not there? And so my hands come up and I'm crumbled at Jesus' feet because like he's now sitting beside God in front of the pan of people. And I say, who else will teach them about you? And then I'm back in that wheelchair. And that moment is what will never leave me.
Which moment? Being back in the wheelchair?
Yeah, in the wheelchair with that knowledge, because my first thought was, what the hell was that? Yeah. I was just in heaven accepting it, and now I am back. But I know whatever is wrong physically isn't fixed. How am I going to get my doctor to take me seriously? I can't tell him what just happened because he's going to think I'm nuts and put me in a psych ward. And so he said, he examined me, said, you're fine. He says, why do you keep saying it's tubal pregnancy? I couldn't tell him. But I knew if I went home, I would die. And I did not want my boys to find me dead after their dad went to work the next day. So he says, well, make you feel better. Since you live an hour away, you can spend the night. So the doctor went home. My husband went home. And I lay there waking up with pain in my right hip. I sit up, get my bowl to vomit, and I would pass out and come to later with vomit everywhere but my blue bowl. This went on all night. When I was on Dr. Oz there a few weeks ago, when I told this, he said, every time you passed out, you died. And, I didn't have any NDE every time I passed out, just that first time. But, why would I? I was sent back long enough for the doctors to fix me. But I thought time was running out. Too much time went by. Mm-hmm. Well, luckily, I lived till morning. They took me to ultrasound. And that's when they saw my entire abdominal cavity was full with internal bleeding clear up to my chest. They called my family and said, she's not going to make it, rushed me into surgery. And that's when afterwards they said it was the biggest tubal pregnancy they ever saw. One baby's in the uterus and one was in the tube. That's why it looked like on the ultrasound they were both in the uterus. It was stuck. He said so close, but yet so far. If it just made it a little bit more, I'd had twins in my uterus, life would have been normal. And so, of course, I would trade having a near-death experience for my twins. If I'd never had a near-death experience, I'd had my twins, life would have been great, So we don't choose this. We don't get to choose. And so after the tubal pregnancy, strange things started happening.
Well, I just want to interject here. We say we don't get to choose. We do. It's just that our personality doesn't understand, because we think life's all about being physical and here and now. Like, those twins might not be in the body, but they're never far from you. And maybe you set that up, when you did your soul plan session, you set all that up. So we do get to choose, just not from this perspective. But when we do leave the body, we get to see that we did choose all that. Like in hindsight, as you said before, when you look back on your life, you see how it all work together. That happened and I decided that, and then that happened and I decided that, and you see how it all works as this beautiful tapestry. That experience that they gave you when you were arguing, I want to go back, and they're saying, no, it's not your time. They were giving you a lesson in resistance. Like, this is one of the principles of being a creator of our reality. What we resist persists. And they were giving you a powerful lesson. When we take responsibility and we stop pushing against life and saying, this is not what I want, this is not how, and we accept, and we say, okay, I accept. Like, everything shifted, didn't it? When you accepted, bang, back in the wheelchair. You got what you wanted. So they were like showing you how we create our reality when we stop pushing against and screaming and jumping up and down like a spoilt child and saying, I want this, I want that, you're not giving it to me. We stop playing the victim and we start taking responsibility for our life and said, right, I accept it, I did that. Then everything changes. I've seen that happen in my life over and over and over again, where I've said, I accept that this is how it's going to be, and then it all changes. Yeah. It's a miraculous thing. So your guides, you call them God and Jesus, but your guides were giving you this beautiful, powerful lesson. It's just gorgeous to hear this story. Funny that you said you're on Dr. Oz and all I could think about was all the medical stuff. Yep, you died every time you passed out. It's interesting how we listen to these stories with our own perspective, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and he kept saying, how did you get back? And I would continue talking, but how did you get back? Because, I'm used to my story has to go a certain way. I can't cut off and chop it up in little bits. And so, but go ahead.
Well, let's continue with the story.
Okay. So after the twins, I was pregnant again, and I was still mourning the twins, and I couldn't talk to anybody about the fact I had died. And I pushed it all away, like I did the abuse and everything else and spiritual stuff. You just bury, and that's your coping mechanism. But I was going through a horrible time, because here I am pregnant again, sure that I'm going to die this time. I'm not going to get lucky again like last time and be sent back. And but yet I couldn't choose to become sterile again, because I wanted a baby so bad. So here I am sent back to raise my boys, but I'm still risking my life by trying to have another baby. I couldn't sort this out. And so we went to a family reunion. I got to be 2 months again, like I had been with the twins when I lost them. So I thought, okay, is this, I'm going to die soon? And we were in line at family reunion, and I heard a child crying. And I asked my husband, you hear a child crying? No. And I asked people ahead of me, and I kept going, no, nobody heard it. Great big line of people waiting to eat, just looking at the food. And I thought, well, I hear a child crying. So I walked out in the field, and to the sound where I heard it, but I no longer heard it. It stopped. And I felt led, as I look back, it's so much like an experience I had after the drowning. I felt led to go into the woods and things. And I seen some tall grass, because I thought there's nothing here a child could get hurt on. And something said, go over to that grass, even though it made no sense that a child would get hurt in this grass. And here was a little boy drowning in this ditch. It was a narrow but deep, like a trench they had built to get water off the hillside. It was going in cabins. And he was barely moving, his face down, and he was just kind of twitching. And I reached down by the back of his shirt and pulled him up. And he looked at me like he'd seen a ghost, ran to his parents. In that moment, I miscarried. Well, that was 1986. In 2010, I was a counselor, and I come across this one person. I told that story first time ever. He said, that was you? That was my little brother. He said he swears to this day that an angel saved him. He said, I can't wait to tell Mom. Now we know what happened. We didn't know if he dreamt it or what. Is he crazy? And so it just was like a validation that this boy had some kind of experience when I saved him. And
did you ever meet him?
No, I would like to.
Okay.
I would love to hear I've looked for him on Facebook, and I can't find the family. I would love to say, what did you experience? And what did you think when you saw me? And what was you saying to your parents when he ran back? He's pointing to me, and I'm looking at him like, what? He's pointing, and they're looking confused, like they didn't see anybody out there. I thought, well, I'm standing right here. And so I would just like to hear his perspective. And then, but right after that, with the little boy, I remembered the drowning from front to back, the entire thing.
Okay. And this is something I wanted to ask you. So up until that point, you had no memory of your 5-year-old drowning, right?
No.
And how old were you at the time? So you'd had the ectopic pregnancy?
25.
You were 25 again. So you got pregnant, like you had the twins, lost them, and got pregnant all in that same year at 25.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, as soon as
it was a busy year.
I lost them, I was pregnant again, like the next month.
Wow,
and then I was 2 months pregnant. Yeah, so and it was right after I lost the second that I remembered the drowning.
So that activated the memory of the drowning. So, that's so beautiful. Don't you love the way the infinite orchestrating power of the universe? So they're giving this little boy some experience, and they're also giving you an experience. Like it reactivated that memory for you. You had forgotten up until that time. And you carry at the same time. God, tell you what, you don't do things by halves, do you, Peggy?
Well, the week before I started having pain, before I lost the twins, we were here on this property. We had just bought it, and we hadn't built the house yet. And the boys were out playing in the woods. And I heard our oldest one, Matthew, yell, Mom, Jeremy. And my husband, X, ran down to see what was wrong. And I stood there frozen in fear, and I started praying because I needed to be with my baby right now, not the time it took my legs to get there. And I kind of spiritually left my body, not like physically, but spiritually. Yeah. I felt like I was up in the air. And suddenly, as I'm praying for God to save my baby, I suddenly knew what was wrong with Jeremy. I knew, even though the creek had always been like ankle deep, we'd had a lot of melting snow and a lot of rain, and it was up and it was swift, but it wasn't too deep that if he stood up, he could walk out of there. He had fell in and panic, was trying to swim. And so I said to Jeremy, my prayer switched to praying to God, to praying to my son, Jeremy. I said, Jeremy, calm down, stand up. It's not that deep. Walk out of there. And then I continued walking down the creek, and then I seen Jeremy's head pop up as soon as his dad got down the creek and found him. And he walked over me like he's in this trance, and he looked at me. He says, Mom, was you worried about me? And, I fell to my knees. My God, Jeremy, you're my baby. Well, Jeremy was about 5. When he was 20 years old, he had a New Year's Eve party. And this was the first time I ever told that story. And Jeremy was in the kitchen making a drink with his girlfriend. And he walked out as I'm telling Jeremy's cousin, Sean, and his best friend, Luke. And he said, Mom, I heard you praying. He said, that's what it was. He said, I was trying to swim because I had panicked. And I heard you praying. Stand up, calm down, walk out of there. And everybody in the room, including me, we gasped. oh my God, and Jeremy to this day says that's true. I mean, he's an accountant. He's very professional, and I don't know if he knows what to think of Mom and all these experiences, but he has to admit that did happen. That's true. And he has told us.
Let me ask you, Peggy. So you had these experiences, like you could see how you could direct your consciousness. So I'm pregnant with twins. My legs are not going to get me down there fast enough. So I'm going to project my consciousness or leave my body, how you explain it, and see what's happening. So,
well, I didn't think that. I just did that.
You just did that. So did you ever do it deliberately? Did you do it?
And it happened.
Praying, right. Did you ever do it more deliberately again? Like, I need to see what's happening. I'm going to go project my consciousness over there and see what's happening. Did you ever do that again?
No.
Well, you
no. Well, it come to me, I think it was yesterday. It come to me, all these little things started adding up because angels come to me and say when somebody's getting ready to die, they'll say, are you praying for them? And I'm like, no. And so I got thinking, well, maybe I should start praying for people. And so I put on Facebook yesterday, if anybody needs prayers, I'll pray for you. And so everybody's just like, yeah, pray for me. I say, okay. And I type a little prayer, and because I don't know. I'm not special. I'm certainly not a saint. I mean, I guess I could say there's sometimes I can get really angry.
Well,
but
we're all not special, and we're all special in our own unique way. And you have your unique way, and your life experience, have shown you how your unique, what is your unique way. So, okay, you're going to be a busy gal if you actually say I'm going to be praying for people. People are going to be asking you to do a lot of prayers.
Well, it's better than Facebook drama, right?
Okay, so you never did that again. Oh, I've done that many times, just gone and had a look, just gone over and had a look at things. But now you can do it. You could be more deliberate. So when you say people die, you obviously have to know about them, right? So my mother's, in hospital. They'll talk to you about their mother. Well, my mother's in hospital, and then you'll have a knowing. Oh, she'll be passing at this time. Is that what happens?
No, the first time it happened, I was alone in my backyard one sunny day, working, sweating, not thinking about nothing what I was doing, and something caught my eye, like a bird or something flying towards me. And I looked over in our field, and in the middle of our field, I seen two kind of like shadows coming real quick to me, and they like hover over, but staying up. And they were just like real quick, not audible, but, telepathic. Are you still praying for Pappy? Pappy is my ex-father-in-law. And no, because I was remarried then. I hadn't seen him in a while. And they said, oh, okay. And they took off. And I'm like, wait, do I need to pray for him? What was that? Why would they come ask me? Or who are they? Or what's this about? And that night, my son called me and said, Mom, Grandpa died. He had a heart attack, and he was in the squad, and he was dead before they got to the hospital. By the time they got to the hospital. So I thought, well, that confirms that what I saw was real.
Right.
Because I have to have confirmation. I'm not one of these people that, says things and, okay, that doesn't make any sense, or, a lot of it doesn't make sense. But, I have to have some kind of verification to believe this. And then other things would happen, like my ex-mother-in-law. I had some feelings before she died, and went to the hospital and consoled the family. And then my ex says, they're cleaning Mom up now, and all the kids are going to see her, but when they're done, you can go in. So I went in. As soon as I put my hand on her arm, kind of like to say hi, after she passed, it was like I just picked up the phone. We started a conversation.
Yeah.
And she wanted me to bring her back. I can't bring you back. But she wanted me to. She was insistent. And I said, you broke a hip. You had a massive heart attack. You had a beautiful death. All 12 of her kids was around her. They were saying prayers and singing. And I said, there's nothing here for you but pain. The next death might not be beautiful. Take this. Go find your husband. Go find your parents, siblings. Go, And she, no. She's like hanging on to me. So I let go. It was just like hanging up the phone on her. Well, she started coming at the foot of my bed. So if one night I got up after a couple nights of this, I said, okay, Mary, what, do you have something to say to me? I got the Bible and a pen. I said, I'm going to write down wherever you tell me. Well, wouldn't you know, it was a vision. She showed me by a vision. And I didn't understand that for a long time. Well, that makes sense, because since I drowned, these visions, pictures, little videos come in. And it was a memory of when I was still married to their son and my boys were babies. I'd walk down to their house one day, and Jeff's dad, we call him Pappy. He says, and his mom was there doing dishes. He called her Mommy. He says, me and Mommy say that you are our Loretta. Loretta was their stillborn child that I think she was born in April. I was born in February, so I think I was born a couple months before her. But she came home a little shoebox. She was 2. I just heard about it, that she was stillborn. And I said, what? He said, yeah. He says, we love you like a daughter, and you look like you could be one of our kids. And he says, me and Mommy talked about it, and you're our Loretta. And she shook her head, yeah. I scoffed at them and walked out of their house.
Right. How
Never
old were you then?
thought about it again. Huh? And so this was their way of telling me how much they love me, I guess.
So hang on, they told you that. How old were you when they told you that?
Well, this is for real or in the spiritual?
Okay, she gave you a vision of a memory. So in the memory, how old were you in the for real?
My boys were babies, so I was early 20s.
Okay, your early 20s again. God, you had some adventures in your early 20s. Okay, and so when she came to you and gave you that vision, that was more recently, right? That was...
well, that didn't happen in my early... It happened for real in my early 20s that they told me this.
Yeah.
But when she died and showed me this vision, I was remarried, so I was 40s.
Right, okay, right. So it happened a while ago. Oh, wow. And so when you had that, so why did she show you that vision?
I felt at the time that they were letting me know they loved me, because at her funeral, I sat there crying, thinking, they had 12 kids, but they had room in their heart for me. They don't know it, but I'm their 13th child. And so when she gave me that memory, I thought, I am their 13th child in their heart. That I was loved. And I think I really needed to hear that at that time. And I think God permitted her to relay that message.
Right.
And I felt Pappy standing there beside her, but I felt her presence more than him.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the spiritual telephone, again, can I ask you a question? Do you meditate? Yeah.
The only time I meditate is right before a talk. They usually do a meditation.
Right.
And that really helps me, because I never know when I'm going to do a talk, where I'm going to start at, what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to tell my NDEs, just like talking to you today, where is this going to go? Where's it going to start? Where's it going to end? And I don't know. And so that meditation helps me get in that soul space. So when I go out there, it's like I'm unwrapping a gift and out into the space, and here it is, and it feels wonderful. And I feel everybody else feels it too. I feel like I'm bringing light out, like I'm harnessing light is what it feels like.
Beautiful.
It's addictive.
I don't know. I just feel like you were so caught up or wrapped up, like all of us, with life, with what next, got to feed the kids, got to take them to school, got to do this, got to sort out the dysfunctional family, got to do. And all this phenomena is happening to you, like unbelievable phenomena. And you're not, from your linear mind perspective, working out what it all means. And I just think that, meditation gives us the space to speak to our guides, to speak to God, to speak to I call them my mob. And I just spent a long time learning to meditate and got really connected to them. So when all this stuff does happen, I ask, what's going on? Can you explain this to me? Because I am this human linear mind perspective, but they've got this broader perspective. And I just ask them what it all means all the time.
I think any time I have alone for very long is meditation for me. Yeah. I don't have to try at it. It's just getting, into your own thoughts and relaxing and getting out all the other stuff out. And then things start coming, like some wisdom sometimes, and I'll pick up my phone and I'll start saying something,
Yeah. You're channeling. You're a channeler. Okay. So you've had a busy life. You've looked after all these children, and they've all flown the coop now, right? So now you've got the space to relay your story, to teach, to do this work. And you've been pretty busy lately, haven't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You've been speaking at a lot of conferences. Let's hear about Dr. Oz, because I find that exciting. The fact that a mainstream show like Dr. Oz puts someone like you on really thrills me. So how did they react to your experiences?
everything, ever since the day I decided to write the book, that morning I had seen a vision and I just started writing because it helped me separate the light and the dark, the good experiences and the bad, and realize, we got to take both of them the same. And so that was a spiritual experience, the book, and then it coming out and all this. And it's been a steady stair step ever since of everything falling in place. And Dr. Oz was just one of those things.
Yeah.
I had a thought one day, how would I get on Dr. Oz? And I thought, well, a friend of mine got on because she was on a near-death experience Facebook group, but I don't like it on those groups, but maybe I'll get on a group and see if I see anything, because before it was just somebody had posted something and you got to contact the administrator and then they forward on. Maybe they'll post something about directly to a producer. I opened up a Facebook group and there it was, right at my fingertips. A Dr. Oz producer had said, if anybody's had a near-death experience and has medical evidence, contact me. It was that easy.
Wow.
And so it was that easy. I'm like, my book's not doing, because I just did a print on demand, so it's not real known and out there. But the people have read it. It's like, oh my God, But so anyway, Dr. Oz, I went there and everybody gets an 8-minute segment and they have a little script because they hear your story and then they kind of break down in bites.
What can you get done in 8 minutes? Seriously,
right.
8 minutes. God, yeah, go on.
But I started getting that knowing feelings. Right. I have been learning to recognize this excited knowing this is going to work out. I don't care what they say. The universe is going to switch gears here and, something wonderful is going to happen. And it did. Right before I was to go on, one of the producers come in and she said, Peggy, we just watched your YouTubes. And oh my gosh, she said, you don't worry about the 8 minutes. Don't worry about the script. You go in there and talk, and you talk as long as you want, and we will cut it and edit it later.
Wow.
And I thought, cha-ching. So I talked for 15 minutes to Dr. Oz. And so then, then they had a time where this medium was talking to the audience, and then we all went on the couch for like 6 minutes, but I didn't talk then. The Dr. Oz talked to the medium, and then the medium talked to the first into ear that was on. And then she didn't talk to me, which I was glad because I didn't really feel I needed to talk to her.
Uh-huh.
I felt so complete with my time I had talked to Dr. Oz, and I really thought it went well. But that was amazing. I wish everyone could have a day to be on Dr. Oz. I mean, it's like queen for the day. The chauffeur met us at the airport. At our baggage claim, he held umbrella for me across the street, opened the back door for me, chauffeured us to the hotel. We got in the hotel and I was like, oh, what time's check-in? He says 3:00. I'm like, oh, we're here early. I said, we can sit over here in the lobby and wait. He says, wait a minute. And he's like typing in stuff. And he said, we're giving you the biggest room we have. It was a suite. I walked in there. It's like, oh my God. I feel like royalty.
Did you go with your husband or were you by yourself?
My husband was with me.
Oh, great. Fantastic.
Yeah. So we had all day, just hang out. And then the chauffeur come to the hotel the next day, opened up the door for me and drove us to Dr. Oz studio with this little security gate and there's a guy waiting at the curb by the back door to escort me in, and went down this hall. And here's all these pictures of famous people with Dr. Oz on these posters on the wall. I'm like, I am dreaming. I have died at some point and nobody told me because I'm living out this dream. And so they took me to my dressing room by myself. I have my own dressing room with me and my husband sitting there. And then they come get me and take me to hair and makeup. And they just fix my hair for the longest time, my makeup for the longest time, and then go back to the dressing room. Mm-hmm. And then, different producers come in and talk to me and then, went backstage, and my husband got to watch on a television screen the show while they come and escorted me and took me out. And when you walk in, you feel like you're at a gymnasium. It's huge. And there is bleachers of people on one side and on the other side, like an L. And in the middle is all these people working, camera people, and I don't know, whatever people, directors or something, full of people in this like, almost like a basketball game, all these people at work. And then there's these chairs. And then, so the first Indier sat down and she talked to Oz. And then I stood over here and watched it all. And then they escorted me over there. And when it was done, they come and escort you after we're done with the couch part, escort us out. And as we were leaving, this lady, I don't know who she was standing there and she said, good job, good job. And she grabbed hold of my arm and she said, come here. And she said, I want you to know you did a very good job. I mean, a very good job. I was like, yay! So they took us back to the dressing room and then immediately escorted us out to our chauffeur who took us to the airport. Oh my God, I felt like Cinderella. It was just so wonderful.
Oh, darling, you are Cinderella, let me tell you. Cinderella is that, I tell you what, the Cinderella story is the story of law of attraction. It's the story of deliberate creation. She's in this hideous circumstances where she's abused as a child and she's almost like a slave, locked in a attic and made to clean the house by the ugly stepmother or the terrible stepsisters or whatever. And she stays positive the whole time. And
kind of in a dream state too,
Yeah, and she talks to the mice. Yeah. And she dreams and she stays positive. Like she doesn't play the victim. She's in these hideous circumstances and then her dreams manifest. Her dreams being, I want to, marry a prince and have pretty clothes and what Hollywood that every girl dreams about. But, dreams can be bigger than that. Dreams can be like, I want to go on Dr. Oz and share my story and I want to change the world. I want children to be loved. Dreams can be bigger than marrying princes and having pretty clothes. But yeah, if we stay positive inside our hideous circumstances and don't play the victim. I just love that image they showed you of the little boy screaming the tantrum and then they showed you being the tantrum, like demanding. And when you got to see yourself from outside yourself, like you were seeing yourself, beautiful how they showed that to you, seeing yourself, then you had that realization that I don't have to be like that. Yeah. So let's talk about the book's title because that's a beautiful story. Do you want to talk about how the title of the book came about?
After the 5-year-old drowning, not long after that, we went to Vito Lake. It was just right up the hill from where we lived as a family, 5 kids, mom and dad. And I had still remembered the drowning and how I know that at that point, I'd forgotten it, not long after that. But how I know it is because I thought, I don't want to fish. Once everybody started getting their poles, starting to fish, I don't want to fish. I'm bored with fish. For my drowning, I see more to fish than I care to.
Yeah.
And I felt led, like there was something in the woods I was supposed to find. And the comparison now, when I look back at hearing that child crying and going out in that field is so similar that it's eerie. And so I went to the woods and like I said, I'm still 5. And I sat down and I thought, well, at first I was standing there looking, I thought, why am I feeling led to come here? There's got to be something else, in this lake other than right here, but I feel there's something I'm supposed to find. And I thought, there's nothing here, dry, cracked mud. It's so void of life, sticks and dirty, dry leaves. I mean, it's ugly. And then I saw a little flower all by itself, and I sat down and looked at it, and it was growing out from under a rock. And I grew compassion for this flower. Mm-hmm. And I looked at it, and I started talking to it. And I said, how did you do this? How did you grow out from under this rock? And there's no water here. There's no sunshine. How did you do it? And as I'm doing that, I start feeling a friendship with this flower. I never did this before or after as a child. And there's a communication that started, and which I had read some poems about my experience, and this is one of them that I read at the conference in 2017. And because it was a vision opened up of these little girls in the fancy dresses and shoes and socks and bows in her long curly hair. And here I am, pixie, short haircut and poor, raggedy clothes and not very smart, And I see the comparison of those girls and me. And then I saw another vision open up, a memory of my mom, her two sisters, my grandma, talking about their favorite flower. And they all were trying to impress each other with expensive flowers. It's hard to grow, or flower shop flowers, And the flower somehow communicated to me, she says, those hard to grow flowers are like those girls. They need a lot of, they need showered. They need a lot of attention to survive. But you are like me. You're going to grow up in a harsh environment, and you're going to have a very hard road ahead of you. But because of it, you will have a strength inside that most girls will never know. Now, how could I create that? I can't create that. I can't create that wisdom or the scenarios. If I am not that intelligent, and I have a short-term memory, but all that stuff is in my long-term. And the PTSD was so vivid, but now I pushed all that aside and allowed the spiritual stuff to come in, and it is so much more vivid, and it fills me with light, where, PTSD can fill you with dark. And I have learned to separate, kind of like an egg. I have learned to separate the yolk from the white. And if I get too much dark, I got to listen to my Christian music. I got to do something like a talk, do something that brings my light back.
Beautiful.
So it's best to stay in that light.
The Will of a Wildflower.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful name. And I love that you've named the book that, and I love that story, because it happened when you were 5. 5 seems to be a big number for you. Drowned at 5, and all this stuff happened when you were 25. What happened when you were 55? Double 5.
Wrote my book.
There you go. What happened when you were 45?
I don't know.
45,
Maybe falling out my empty nest.
Or even when you turned 50. What about when you turned 50? What happened?
My kids had a 50th birthday party for me and my husband, because I'm 6 weeks older than him. And they did it in the middle of our birthdays and had a surprise birthday party. And I only had one birthday party in my life. I was 14 years old. And I never thought about birthday parties, but I kept telling my husband when it was my birthday, I don't know why, but I really want a birthday party. I don't know why. And so my birthday passed and his was coming. I thought, maybe I'll have him a 50th. And then we went somewhere and walked in a restaurant, and here's upstairs, my kids had this whole buffet and whole big party for me and my husband. And that was like Dr. Oz, that was just beautiful. All my grandchildren, my kids, and it was just great.
So if you've fostered over 60 children, do you ever have a reunion where they all come?
I wish, but a lot of those kids could have been just a weekend. The longest we had one was a year and a half. Okay. We might have them for a few weeks, few months. So, it varied. We've had a couple that we had long-term come back or stay in touch, but they go back to their family, and families don't want to remember the time their kids was in foster care. Mm-hmm. And a lot of kids don't want to remember that they were in foster care. It's a really hard time for them.
But surely some of them have come back and said, thank you, and you were my angel, and all that sort of stuff. Because you're just this angel on earth looking after children. I'm sorry, you are. That child was right. You are an angel. You're an angel on earth, honey. Another story that happened, not quite when you said you were 16, but almost 15, there's that 5 again, was that you were, do you want to tell that story? Do you remember that story?
The out-of-body experience?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. One of my friends at school, her name is Lily, she saw the bruises on me from my stepdad, and I had kept that a secret. I kept everything a secret because nobody cared. Why would you tell if your own parents don't care, whoever, And I didn't understand children's services back then in the 70s. There wasn't much of that anyway. But so a friend seen the bruises, and she said, you have got to get out of there before he kills you. And I said, I know. Sorry. That's my dog. Because he had been telling me he's going to kill me. And my mom, my brother was telling me he's going to kill you. And they didn't care. They were just kind of bragging, gloating, he's going to kill you. And so it was a matter of time, and I knew it. Well, she said, you got these bruises, and he's going to kill you, and you need to get out of there. She says, I have a cousin that's 18, and he's vocational school, but he'll be on the bus tonight because he wasn't driving that day. I'll point him out, and at 5 o'clock, you be down at the end of the road, and he will take you to your dad's that lived in Marietta. And I said, okay. I knew my dad really didn't like me. I was the youngest, and he just didn't really care for me. I was always a mommy's girl. But the older kids had all run from oldest to, my oldest sister and then my brother and my other sister. They had ran, and he took them in and let them live there because of my stepdad's abuse. So he knew about the abuse. And so I'll try it. I was afraid of his rejection. And I didn't really have a choice. So I thought, I'll try it. I'm going to change schools and friends and everything, but, I'll do this. So I went down the road at 5 o'clock, and this guy picked me up, and he started taking me to my dad's in Marietta. And a cop drove by, and he said, oh, your mom's got the cops looking for you already. I said, no, there's not enough time. She didn't know I'm missing yet. And he says, well, I can't take you. I don't want to get in trouble. I said, well, just drop me off Marietta anywhere. Nobody will know that you took me. And so he ended up, long story short, and took me at nighttime to because he said I had to wait till dark to take me. Somebody see me. And we ended up taking me to a shed out in the woods. And he broke off this lock, and it was a tool shed. There was tools everywhere. And he started building a fire in a wood burner. And there was a cot over on the right when you walk in, and I laid on it and faced it close to the wall, thinking I'll pretend I'm asleep, and hopefully he'll leave me alone. And because he kept acting like he wanted to date, and I kept saying it's not a date. I just want my dad's. And earlier in the night, he took me to a lake, and he said, if I throw you in here, nobody will ever find you, and nobody ever know you're with me. The only one that knew was his cousin, which she wouldn't tell him. And so I started praying that this wasn't going to happen. And then when I laid on the cot, he said, I hope you don't think I'm going to sleep on the floor. And I knew by that he was going to rape me. And so he worked on the fire a little bit more. He come over. When he leaned down over me, I'd already been praying that I wasn't even in this world, because this is a black man, and my family was so prejudiced, and I never was. But I knew how they would treat me. And because I wasn't able to scream and fight because of the tools, and I was scared, his threat earlier, I knew he could kill me if I fought. So I wanted out of there so bad. I prayed. I said, God, nobody loves me on this earth. I wish I wasn't even on this earth. And all of a sudden, I am in the night sky among the twinkling stars. And I have my body. I'm a skinny little thing, long, dark hair. And it's like at the beach, that wind is blowing in my hair. And I was free, and I didn't care why. And I looked down, and earth looked like you would just look down at a table and see a globe. It was like that size. But it's just basking in this blackness, and I'm thinking, wow, earth is weightless, just like I am. How heavy earth must be, but it's just this basking in space like I am. And I had the feeling that earth is not just physical, but spiritual, like we are, because it's just hovering in this.
Yeah.
And then when I started to worry, wait a minute, I'm 16. How long am I going to be here? Maybe I need to get back. And then I was back, and it was over. And how I knew he raped me, because I experienced nothing. Yeah. I didn't hear nothing, feel nothing, know anything. I was gone. I was not there. And he said, wow, I hope I have a wife like you someday. And I thought, well, he must mean easy. I must have just laid there, Well, I got away from him the next morning and got to the police, and he admitted that he had raped me. But back then they just charged him with statutory. And I had told the police and the children's services how I tried to get away from him and stuff.
Okay.
I couldn't explain anything else.
They charged him with statutory rape. They charged him with
Yes.
rape. So when you said they just charged him with statutory, what do you mean by that? They just charged him? Like they charged him with what he did?
Well, they could have charged him with rape if they would have listened to me. And
but isn't statutory rape? Is statutory not rape? I don't understand.
It's not. He just got probation and a restraining order. If they would have done a more thorough investigation, because I had proof. He had took me to a bar before. He took me to the shed, and I tried getting away from him. I told people I need away from him. He won't let me go to my dad's and stuff. And they told him, hey, she don't want to be with you. There could have been evidence of me trying to get away and things, but they just charged with statutory.
again,
You
you
know,
were
a
given,
runaway kid, they don't want to deal with you.
but again,
Mm.
you were given this incredible experience from your guides, like one, that you're not the body. You know, your body's having an experience down there and you're not experiencing it. That was beautiful. And two, that you were that Earth is as spiritual as we are. You know, she's a being, she's a planetary being that hovers in space, and she has a soul and a spirit just like we do.
Well, that's now, but you know, my family abused me a lot more when I went back home. I was put in protective custody because my parents said they were going to kill me. And so, but I went back home, they abused me more because you were the black man, you're trash, you know, that kind of thing. And I knew that would happen.
Yeah.
And my brother and my stepdad would knock me out cold. And my brother would brag that my mom would say, pick that thing up. I'm tired of stepping over it, you know? And so I was less than human. And that continued into my first marriage because his big Catholic family hated black people. And they said I had sex with a black man. I never told anybody it was rape. I didn't understand because I didn't fight that it was rape. And I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to justify it because I thought if he was white, nobody cared. But because he's black, they're making this big deal, and I'm not even going to talk about it. All I would say is I'm not prejudiced, and I'll never be prejudiced. And if I had fell in love with a black man, I'd have been happy to marry one. And so they beat me too, because one day one of them beat me up while the other stood there and watched. And because I was just less than human.
Wow.
And to this day, I'm still treated like I'm less than human.
Maybe that's a bit of a pattern you've set up, Peggy. We'll have to talk about this after the show. We need to break that pattern.
I mean, it's out there. I mean, I'm at the point it's okay now. I'm not hiding it anymore. But I've hit abuse long enough.
Yeah, you have. And we've got to break that pattern, but we can do that after the show. Because you're obviously not less than human. But sometimes when we decide something about ourselves, we carry that in for us, you know, we carry that with us for the rest of our lives until we become aware that we're carrying ideas about ourselves that are not the truth, but they keep playing out. And people say, you know, as a teacher of this, people say to me, but it's true because this happened, but it's true. But we get to create our reality because of what we believe. So what's true is we believe it's true. And when we break that spell, you know, that we know that it's not true, it ceases to be true in our life and it ceases to reoccur. So we'll have to do that for you, Peggy, because you've got work to do, girl. You've got, you know, you're going to be busy.
Yeah. And I will, and I have made a decision today. I will do it with or without any support. I will do what I need to do with or without any support, because sometimes you do. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you have to break things.
Yeah, we're here to do what we're here to do, but it's a hell of a lot easier to do what we're here to do when we're not believing our stressful thoughts. So that's the work I do with people, and I think it's really important that all teachers do that work, you know, to break the spell of our childhood conditioning and to remember who we are as infinite potential, as infinite beings that come from this realm of unconditional love. And Peggy, you've been there so many times. You know, when you were floating out there in space, did you talk to anyone or did you just hang out there by yourself?
I just hung out there by myself.
And then
enjoying this hovering and feeling the wind and safe. And when I come back, I thought, was that a gift? Was that a wish come true? Do I have some kind of ability? Because before that, I would, when my stepdad would beat me, I had learned this thing where you can just cover your head and say to yourself, like, go ahead, big man, beat on a little girl. I don't feel anything. And I thought maybe I could do that when I'm laying there as the guy in the shed is building the fire. I'm thinking, well, I wonder if I can do that now, if I can block it out. And I thought, no, this is too much. I'm not going to be able to block it out. And that's when I just started wishing I wasn't even there. And then I was gone. And so, you know, and you can't tell those things. You know, for decades, I couldn't tell that. I couldn't, well, one, I'm going to talk about no rape.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But I couldn't talk about, well, I wasn't in my body, and I couldn't talk about hovering over a pond, and I couldn't talk about any of this.
Yeah,
and
now you can.
finally, I got my truth when the morning before I started writing my book. I felt I got my truth. I saw a vision open up. I saw myself from behind, and I was in this creek in this woods, and I've been over picking up little bits of light. And the more I pick up, the lighter the dim woods had got, like full. And somehow that showed me, and it's like I seen, like in front of me, there's this black curtain, and it moved, and this white come in. And to me, it was like pushing all that bad to the side, and now all the white, because I thought, okay, I know about all the bad stuff and the abuse, but what about all this spiritual sitting on Jesus' lap? I had a vision like thing after the drowning, sitting on Jesus' lap, where I was told, Jesus loves children of every color. Never forget that. And that was like stamped inside of me. And, different spiritual things just like all coming. And I couldn't write about the abuse before because it was so ugly and so horrible. And who would want to read that? And I couldn't stand it. It was like filthy and horrible. But I felt now that I had this light of protection, then I could focus on that. I could tell the bad in order to explain the light. And the whole time I wrote for 3 months, it felt like somebody was standing right in front of my laptop. And I didn't see anybody. I just felt that. And I'm telling this person my story from beginning and just telling my truth, my truth, my truth. In 3 months, I wrote the end. And I was just going to put it in a drawer and tell my kids to give it to my grandkids when I die. That was going to be it. But steps just started coming. Ian's leader in Columbus, she's written books. And she said, Peggy, why don't you send that to my publisher? Like, no. So I called him and I said, well, I don't think it's worthy. He said, it's worthy because you're worthy. And so, and he kept it a couple months, and I'm nervous wreck. What's he going to say? He called me and he said, I don't know how you did this. It is unheard of for a first-time author to have such an authentic voice. And he said, you don't go on and on about the abuse like, oh, poor is me, like a lot of people do in these kind of books. He said, you just tell it. He said, it is deeply tragic, yet divine. And he says, I don't know how you did it. And I'm thinking, me, everybody has put me down my whole life and not let me. And so, when people contact me and say, I read your book, and oh my gosh, I've had child psychologists just go crazy over it, ministers, just anybody, and I'm like, yeah, of course I have a few haters that I don't think even read it. I mean, a couple people said it was too wordy. I'm like, it's a book, It has pictures.
It's got words in it. It's a book. Darling, the thing is that when you put yourself out there on the arena, out there on YouTube or on any platform, you're going to get the haters. That's just life. But then you've had haters, you're used to haters, darling. You've had haters in your life your whole life. And it's not our job to hate the haters. It's our job to love the haters. Yeah. So
I'll let you love the haters for me, okay?
No, John, you can love the haters too. Like, the haters are just people that have forgotten who they are. They've just forgotten how to love. I wrote a book years ago called Return to Love, and I had the same experience. I was talking to God, or my guides, I call them my guides, my mob. And how do I make a difference in this world? What's the thing that people most, what creates the most pain in this world? And they said death. Death creates the most pain in this world. People grieve over death. Well, not you. You keep dying all the time. I'm talking about when people lose people. They're like grief and tragedy and sadness. And if you die, you know that you don't die, but most people don't know that. And so they said, write about what you know. And I thought, I knew about death. And so I just started writing about, mum dies when I'm 16 and best friend dies, another best friend dies. They just keep popping off so I just start writing about all these experiences, and it just flowed out. Like, it flowed out in 2 weeks. It just bang on the page. And then it took 2 years to edit it.
Yeah. It took me all summer to edit mine. I had a good editor. She'd email it, and, I was working 60 hours a week. I'd read it in the evening. And so, but it was the trauma part was hard to keep editing, just keep reading it over and over. And I got to the point, like, get this away from me.
Yeah, I know. You don't want to look at it again. I've got to say, I haven't read my book for 10 years because I spent so long poring over it that I just couldn't look at it again. I just couldn't look at it again. But, we've got another book series out sharing people's transformative experience. The first one was Awakened by Death. So people having these spiritual awakenings through the death experience, either their own death or the death of a loved one, because my awakening experience was through Mum dying. You know, she kept coming to me in dreams saying, you know, I'm not dead. And I kept saying from my little brain, where the hell have you been? And then waking up in the morning and not understanding any of that, like the 5-year-old having these experiences and being given this wisdom and then trying to work it out from our child mind and linear mind perspective. Like, how could I understand that she's not dead? Because in my reality, she was dead, right? So she kept coming to me to tell me she wasn't dead, and it never made sense. Like, how could you not be dead? You're dead. Like, you're dead. What do you mean you're not dead? Yeah, so you've got to work it all out, you know, got to find a broader perspective.
It's like our brain and our soul, sometimes for me, is like battling it out.
Battling it out. Yeah.
That can't be right. And it says, but it's real. It happened. I know that. But it can't be. You couldn't have done that. But I know it didn't.
I know.
I remember that.
We've been yakking for about 2 hours now.
Oh
There's so much to share. Your story is just amazing, and you've got so much more to share. Just beautiful. And you're sharing it on YouTube, and I wanted to sort of share some things that you hadn't shared, which I think we've done today, which is beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing your story and being on the show. And any last words you want to leave with people of all the experiences that you've gone through, both in your physical and out-of-body experiences? Like, what's the thing that you've learnt the most? Like, what's the message that you think you're here to bring humanity?
Children are sent here to be loved. That is why God sends them here.
Yeah, well, that would be nice if everyone thought that. I don't know if God sends them here to be loved. I think God sends them here not to be loved, and then we've got to, remember how to love them. Yeah.
That's what I was told during my drowning.
I know. I think that was very much a message for you, because that was your life path. That was your mission. According to maybe you in a past life, you made that decision that you wanted to look after children. And so you came into this life and had all those experiences so that you would remember that was your mission. Like, this is your mission in this life, is to look after children. Because I don't know too many people that have fostered 60 children.
Or adopted 10.
Or adopted 10. I mean, 10. I had one. That was enough. Everyone's my child, really, because I like to mother everybody. But, of course, you children, you love them the most. Thank you, Pegi.
Thank you.
Wow, what a powerful story that one was, isn't it? Pegi and I had an interesting talk after I turned off the recording. So many people think that just because you've had these spiritually transformative experiences, or OBEs or NDEs or notes or whatever you want to call them, any acronym you have, that we're all enlightened and that, life is peachy keen. But it's not. We still have to integrate these things, after we have these aha moments, like Desda said on the show last week, Desda Zuckerman. She said, it's not the aha moments that change our life. It's the everyday moment that changes our life. It's that moment to moment. Do I believe my stressful thoughts? Do I believe the beliefs that I've set up from my childhood? And with Pegi, many beliefs were set up. That she was a victim, that people don't believe her when she speaks, that she was powerless, that that there are abusers, and there's many beliefs, and it takes a lifetime sometimes to overcome our stressful beliefs and to know that we are a voice for love in this world. I say this to you guys all the time, that you are the new world teachers, and sharing your story is a way that we teach. But knowing that everything that we've lived because we've come to overcome it, and not just overcome the physical circumstances, but overcome the emotional circumstances, and to change what we believe about ourselves. That's the work that we do as deliberate creators, because we only get upset, not because of what's happening to us, but because what we believe about ourselves. So I'm not worthy of being loved. That happened to me because I'm not worthy of being loved, or people abuse me, or I'm a victim. And when we know ourselves as an extension of source energy, as the creator of our reality, we can never feel like a victim again. But we do have to overcome our stressful thoughts and remember who we are. We have to return to love in this lifetime. That's the invitation. That's the invitation of this life, Can I come here and experience the contrast and the polarity and the drama and the trauma? And can I return to love? Can I remember myself as love? And can I love all of it? Can I be grateful for all of it and see all of it as an experience that I elected to experience in order to evolve my soul and be grateful for it? That's the invitation. It doesn't have to happen today, but that's the invitation we're given. Can I return to love? Because believe you me, when you drop your body and you dropped your negative thoughts when you die, you're going to return to love. You are absolutely going to return to love. But can you return to love while here in the body with all the past experiences? Can you thank it all and return to love? If you need some help doing that, let me know. That's my specialty. That's what I did with my life. I had a not quite as traumatic life as Pegi, I tell you. Her life is just mind-blowing, and I take my hat off to her for still being here and being able to share her experience. But I had a pretty traumatic childhood, and I see all of it with gratitude. You know, mum dying at 16, watching her suffer, hate herself to death, and then suffer with the illness and the pain. Oh my God, that was traumatic enough. And then dad with his anger. Oh, it was exhausting. It's exhausting thinking about it. But I can see all of it with love now. I can see all of it with gratitude. And I have to say, when I was younger, I was making the same mistakes as my parents. I remember feeling so much hatred for my ex-husband and feeling this instant where I wanted to stop him, having access of our daughter because he was not behaving appropriately. And as Byron Katie says, when we believe our stressful thoughts, we are insane. We're in our insanity. And I was having an insane moment of thinking, I'm not going to allow him access to our daughter. And then I'm thinking, oh my God, I've turned into my mother. I'm insane. I just had this realization that I was believing my stressful thoughts and I was having an insane moment. And we all do. It's all part of being human. When we believe our stressful thoughts, we are insane. Can we turn it around? And I did. I turned it around. I thought, I don't want to be like my mother. She just hated herself to death. It didn't take long. She was just riddled with resentment and hatred. And I thought, no, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like that. I want to be full of love. And so I stopped believing my stressful thought, and then everything returned. It was all good. All right, gorgeous ones. Beautiful ones. Thanks again for watching another show. Love you all, and buy the book, join the Inner Sanctum, have a session. It's all there available if you want to stop believing your stressful thoughts and stop your insanity and return to love. It's available. It's available for all of us. Love you all. Bye for now.